This is Beyond the Veil with Norman Meredith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Veil with me, your host, Norman, and my co-host and producer, Ed.
Hey, how y'all doing out there?
How you doing tonight, Ed?
We're doing all right, man. Life is grand.
We're going to take a step away from the cryptids of the states and talk about the Glassy Mountain UFO incident.
Glassy Mountain?
Yeah, you remember the other
Which
week?
Glassy Mountain?
Here in South Carolina.
Is it in Pickens County?
Yes.
Interesting. I got to hear this one.
Okay. You know, when we were leaving the other week, we ran into that young fella that said he watches my show occasionally. And was telling us about his UFO incident back in the 70s.
Interesting, man.
I tried to get him to come up here, but, you know, he's camera shy, I think.
I know the guy, and he's probably not going to do it because they'll think maybe he's a little wacky. But
well, it's too late for me.
Pickens County, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Glassy Mountain. Now, obviously, that's not a picture of it, but everybody will notice the next one, though.
Yeah, that's when UFOs invade. This is the concept from what we were talking with the gentleman. He was saying when he was a young lad that they watched lights land on Glassy Mountain.
That's wild.
That were not aircraft or helicopters. And what was the strangest part was, he says, was the military response that came up out of the blue. Like they were tracking this thing and were on top of it in no time.
In Pickens County.
That's what he was telling me.
Interesting.
That, you know, because you ran off to take care of some business, and he was telling me that that the military actually showed up. He didn't say if it was Army, Air Force, or what, just that they were military. And they went up towards Glassy Mountains to investigate, recover something. And so this was the concept for tonight's show. I thought it would be a good idea to try to talk about that a little bit.
Well, I'd say for all you who do not know what Glassy Mountain is, that is Glassy Mountain, just outside the city limits in Pickens, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And it was just an interesting thing. I think, and I'm not sure, but I think I actually read about this back in the 80s. But I don't remember, because once he mentioned it, something clicked in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I've heard of this before. Now, what I've got, just from a little information I was able to find out, the Glassy Mountain area, particularly within the context of South Carolina UFO lore, is often linked to localized accounts of strange lights and aerial phenomenon. While not a singular intentionally renowned event like Roswell, these sightings are part of the regional paranormal reports. Okay, key aspects of this thing. Now, some guy near Bowman actually built a UFO welcome center because of this event. But it burnt down in 2024.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So he was very moved by this event that he actually built a UFO welcome center with a UFO of some sort. And I went and looked at the pictures for where it was burning and all that, and couldn't really tell what was there anymore. I mean, this thing was gone. Now, mountain sightings, like many mountain regions around Glassy Mountain, have generated anecdotal reports of unidentified lights or craft over the years, often attributed to universal atmospheric conditions, military activity, or other unexplained phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll give military activity some, because, you know, sometimes the government will test military aircraft that are top secret over population areas to see if people see them, their response, you know, all that sort of stuff. That's like allegedly, supposedly, when they were building the B-2 bomber, they were flying it over the Hudson River Valley.
I believe that.
And then it was around the same time that people were reporting triangular-like UFOs.
Okay. Now that might make sense, right?
Right. So that's the story. So either it was a B-2 bomber that was flying over the Hudson River Valley, or it was actually a triangular UFO that they blamed on being test flights of the B-2. Go figure. Mm-hmm. But, you know, by using population centers, they can determine what people see, how they react. You know, if, you know, you're just a stargazer, do you see something up there at night with strange shape or, you know, because lately here, the trend for the last, 40 years maybe, we've gone from discs and Tic Tacs, as they're called, to triangular UFOs. Mm-hmm. And I think triangular UFOs are ours.
You should be like cigars, you know,
Yeah.
and all the things that you would possibly see in a sci-fi movie type situation.
Mm-hmm.
But the triangular ones, are you saying they're ours, like they're our military?
I'm thinking that's what it is.
Okay.
Or, remember now, military can deny anything and let it be done by certain elements of the private sector, because the private sector don't have to tell you jack of what they're working on.
That's right.
And, so there's there's a possibility that these could have been, government or private industry working for the government, or DARPA projects.
Could be Boeing.
Yeah.
Lockheed. Lockheed. Yeah.
But this was just interesting in talking, because the guy was like, he was just it was crystal clear to memory of seeing these strange lights. And I think one of the light colors he mentioned was a bright red landing up there on top of the mountain, which just blew him and his family away, because it's like, I don't mean to sound bad, but sometimes, people consider some people in the South rednecks and hicks, and that we don't know how to open a book from either at the front or the end of the book. But he was, he's a good old country boy, and his family's country related, and it was just a phenomenon that amazed him, especially like I say with that military presence. And there's only two places I can think that military can come from: North Carolina from Fort Bragg. No, three places. Down in Charleston, the Air Force Base. There's one out there, I can't think of the name of it.
Joint Base, Charleston.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Air Force, Navy.
Right.
And Columbia.
Yeah.
Fort Jackson.
Yeah. And then you got Georgia with Fort Benning.
Right.
And, the other two, I can't think of the name.
But how are they on top of it so quickly, though? That's always...
I've been thinking about that. And besides
tracking it.
And besides reading sci-fi novels, because I like reading, is we have advanced radar, but technically we say we don't. Okay. I'm thinking they're using advanced radar to determine these things, especially out in space. I think we have satellite systems that point outward that track non-terrestrial objects. Yes, we know they got telescopes, but I think they got some other kind of network up there, because remember, Reagan created the Star Wars defense system. Lasers, rockets, kinetical energy weapons. I wouldn't be surprised they got a net of surveillance equipment up there facing outwards, not inwards, but outwards, to determine threats coming in.
Yeah.
And that's what I think was going on, is that maybe some technology we picked up helped us to find these things, because supposedly, like the F-17 Nighthawk, okay, one of those was shot down over Serbia during the small conflict there, and they said the reason they were able to determine it was through microwaves. They were using microwave radiation or directed as a radar beam, and that's how they were able to find a stealth fighter. Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
And I mean, I'm not familiar or super familiar with the technology, but
I'm not either. But it was it was something I read about.
Principled concepts, obviously.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
Well, let's see a little bit more information I got. I ain't got much on it. While folklore surrounding the mountains often suggests secret military technology or extraterrestrial activity, and reported incidents in such regions remain undocumented by official mainstream scientific studies. Okay, mainstream official may not document it, but certain three-letter agencies, like NRO, for example, National Reconnaissance Organization, okay, they probably document this stuff. Department of Energy, certain elements of the U.S. military, they're keeping track of all this stuff, so they know what's coming in, what's going on. And it goes back to the rumors of we've made contact, so there's friendly people that we know, and then there's the unfriendlies, and oh God, the things you could go through for UFO lore that would just blow your head sometimes.
And I tell you what, too, I wonder if, things like this, I'm just being me here. I wonder if things like this coincide with the supposed missiles on 6 Mile Mountain. Supposed.
I heard
missiles.
Something
back in the day, Cold War stuff, as a front, because in this state where it's located at, this being this far inland would be like a secondary defense from the Charleston area, Myrtle Beach area,
Now, you're
Columbia area.
talking missiles. Are you talking ICBMs or something like
I don't know
Hogs?
exactly, but from what I was told before is that on 6 Mile Mountain there were missile defense systems. So it makes you wonder, is that
Possible.
post World War II, Cold War era?
It's amazing you mentioned that, because when I lived in Buffalo, there used to be this little army post. I mean, it looked small and all that outside in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have swore some of the stands there looked like missile stands at one time.
Could be.
That might have been a missile defense base. Like Nike was big back in the 50s and 60s, I believe. It was interceptor rockets for missiles and such.
Yeah. Which would be nowadays Patriot missiles. Those are definitely.
But we still have other types of missile systems besides Patriot that we can use for interception.
I just wonder, like, the year that this was done, from, I know the guy's age, he's a little younger than me.
I think he said it was in the 1970s, 77, I think.
That would be interesting, because if it's 77, that's just post-Vietnam War era. Or were they coming to look at the different mountains and mistook 6 Mile Mountain for Glassy Mountain? I don't know exactly.
I don't know, but UFOs are supposedly connected with our missile defense systems, our missile offensive systems, nuclear powers facilities, nuclear storage. So it's like honey attracting flies, weapon systems and other things attract UFOs apparently. And that's a documented fact.
That's wild.
There's been Air Force officers, missile officers that have talked about their silos going down because of an encounter. And, nuclear weapons going offline, rockets going offline, like it was a nuclear strike, and they can't do nothing. But it's amazing. It was just interesting to hear somebody else's story about, eyewitness story. We've had a couple folks up here talk about Bigfoot and all that, and their encounters. But this was one of the first times, since I started this podcast, someone come up to me and talk to me about their UFO encounter.
Yeah.
I've got a guy that talked to me. I was doing an interview here just a couple weeks ago, and I told him that, I work and do podcasting so I'm comfortable. And he said, what type? And I told him what I was doing. He told me, he says, yeah, I had a UFO encounter and I've got it on tape. I'm like, damn, you got to come on my show. He's going to think about coming out here on my show.
Bring it, man.
That'd be cool, especially seeing the video clip.
Yeah, you got to get it out there.
Yeah, definitely. Because you know what's happening? Have you been watching the news lately?
No.
All right.
I try not to.
Roughly between 27 to 28 scientists that have either died or gone missing.
Oh, I've seen some of that, yes.
And besides, like that Air Force general that had worked at, I think it was at Wright-Patterson in advanced materials or something. And then some of these scientists that have supposedly died or disappeared have been plasma energy. One guy was a guy who discovered water on another planet with the possibility of life. Engineering scientists, material composites. I mean, these guys are dropping like flies. And then Nick Pope died here a couple weeks ago, staunch UFO supporter from England. He worked for the Ministry of Defense. There was another UFO enthusiast who died he committed suicide, and my mind's slipping at the moment because I wasn't thinking about bringing it up today. He passed away from suicide, but supposedly a medium reached out to him. He said, oh, I did this on my own. There was no foul play. Yeah, the government can mess with your mind without you even being there. They can gaslight you like tomorrow. And then there was another young lady who also died in the UFO community because she was supposed to talk to Congress, and she died mysteriously. A lot of folks that were supposed to talk to Congress have either been dying or mysteriously disappearing now.
That's wild, man.
And it's up to 27 to 28 people.
There's a bunch of them.
So, but somebody made a note, and it's just a blurb I read, that supposedly during the time of the Star Wars Defense Initiative, something similar happened for those folks that were working on the system for satellites. So it was either the bad guys are knocking them out, or they're taking them out of the system so that nobody can knock them out, and then creating a scenario.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That'd be like a couple of black hats coming in here and grabbing us because we said the wrong thing on the podcast.
Yeah. Those people know what they're doing. You know, but then again, you got more viewers. So
Definitely.
just the wrong ones with three letters before their name or after their name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Usually they say, I'm from such and such agency. Never heard of it. But, I'm getting to understand that, Department of Energy is even in this investigation, which is strange, about missing scientists. Mm-hmm. I figured it'd be an FBI thing, CIA, but Department of Energy, I guess maybe because some of these scientists had ties to energy systems.
Right.
But, also, 3I Atlas is still in our universe, our solar system.
Really?
And I'm wondering if something ain't happened with that, and that's why these people had dropped out, per se, or supposedly died. You remember, they can always fake your body, and just pulled them in because contact's been made.
Right.
And they're trying to sort things out and understand the technology change.
It ain't right, man. But people go into these occupations know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They know the pitfalls.
An example that general, okay? Now, they keep saying he had dementia, okay? He was at early stages of dementia, and then he wandered off. Yeah, but you don't take a .38 caliber pistol and wander off.
Right.
And they haven't found no body. So it makes me think the only reason why a former Air Force general would carry a pistol is because he's going to meet somebody, but he's not sure how the meeting's going to go.
Or possibly who that somebody's bringing with them.
Exactly. And so he took it as protection. He didn't take his ID and all that because, hey, he ain't going to need it where he's going. And by that, I mean like a black site.
Yeah. So what other information do you have on Glassy Mountain?
Nothing much more except just the fact that he was talking about it. And as hard as I looked, I couldn't find too much information on the net.
And it makes you think, I mean, it was a time where, when it was seen that
computers weren't even really out
it's
here.
Not really a thing.
But, still, you think I'd be able to find archive story or news blurb. Nothing. So I'm just going from a witness statement of what occurred.
Yeah.
You ain't had anything like that happen to you yet, have you, besides that shadow?
No, nothing yet. Just a weird shadow in my driveway every once in a while.
Okay.
I catch it every once in a while.
I'll tell you after the show how you might be able to fix that.
All right.
So it doesn't get in the house.
Burn sage in the driveway.
Oh, you can do that. Also involves salt. Put salt in your doorways, door frames. You also use sage inside the house, but when you're using the sage, you got to pray. A prayer protection and all that, and chase it all out toward the door. And then once it's out, then you got to put salt across your barriers, and then, you got to say a prayer about you not wanting evil to cross your barriers. Put it in your windows and everything, and you might see if that helps.
Well, we did have one encounter yesterday.
Uh-oh, what happened?
The zombie cat. There was a zombie cat. I came out my garage. There was a cat in my garage, and it was like, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I looked, and this cat came out with all this stuff in his eyes. It's about that big around, and it just kept coming at me. I ran away like a little girl. I was like, this is wild. And we actually had to walk out into the cul-de-sac to get this cat away, but there was something about this cat, man. I was like, does it have rabies? It's all skinny, it looks mangy.
Did you call wildlife person?
No,
from the county?
We just went up really far in the street, and it followed, and then ran home and closed the doors. So it was, I don't know, zombie cat, man. I'm not a cat guy, like at all.
My brother's has a house full of cats.
Ugh, poor guy.
No, that's his thing. He likes his cats. I could say more, but I won't. I promise to behave. But I think that's what we're going to leave it at tonight, is just talking about the Glassy Mountain UFO incident and other things that are going on around the world. And just we're going to sign off from Pickens and tell you thank you for joining us tonight. Ed and I appreciate y'all joining us, listening to us. And next week I'll get back on the bend of Cryptids of the States.